poem is not enough. Poetry is the lazy way of not writing a story, and even more lazy than not writing a novel, and sometimes preferable to talking. Well, I think the way I want to talk about my poetry is really talking about what happened in my life, a child and growing up and growing old, how that became then subject, how that also is part of the subject of my poetry. And the first poem I do remember is the one I wrote for Mother's Day for my mother, and I was about 12 then, and I remember it was one of those, the way you're supposed to write a poem to your mother, and of course I really didn't mean a word of it. I wrote a poem to a woman that I would have liked my mother to be. At the end of my teens, that's when World War II started. And I certainly, I didn't write for a long time. Sort of the nightmares took their place. So it was not until maybe 5 years after the war, a few years after the war, I started writing poetry again. And those were my love poems. And they were always about love and loss. And I would say more about loss than love. And then as I grew older, my poems became more poetry about, growing old. For the first time I wrote poems about my fear of dying. And my poems reflect more and more that distance I feel between the world as I used to know it, and the other world I'm entering, which is really close to death. And then once in a while I come back to life and I write a poem, about something wonderful. The one thing I really never wrote about, and which was probably the thing that shaped my life more than anything else, was the fact that I was born with a cleft palate. And only recently I was able, only a few years ago, I was able to deal with it, when and it sort of got summed up in a poem. I'll read that poem, right? Right from the start, my first words got lost. I thought I was speaking the same language I heard. In my family, a foreigner, repeating each sentence, trying, crying. Poor child, what a pity, they said and sighed, while I played make-believe, turned their words into lies and wrapped them around me. In the street, teased and taunted, I hid where I could. School, a hospital of sick words, screaming. Sleep was my stage, where my sounds became words. The audience spellbound as I recklessly rhymed and coined whole sentences. But each time I woke up, I was always ready for tears or murder. That's a powerful poem. That makes me want to cry, For that child. That's really what happened. And I spent my whole life having to deny it. Otherwise you can't survive, Poems about poems. A word has two faces. Words sicken me. I'm selling every one of them dirt cheap. with sounds and meaning thrown in. And the ones left over, I'm poisoning. Words are in love. They can't stop kissing and never grow old. The ones you heard on your grandmother's tongue can be found in the mouth of your daughter and son. The next poem is untitled. When you have no mind left, it's time to write a new kind of poetry. Lines for no reason, a time of no rhyme, just one word after another. Last one is the proof is a poem. A pair of dirty socks on the chair, my glasses on top, like a poem. You don't have to make up a thing, just recognize it when you see it.